Hi.
Hi.
Hi,
Hello.
everyone. Thank you so much for joining today. And hi, Shiri. Hi, Lavi. Hi, Kiki. Hi,
Hi.
Donna. So I would love to wait for a minute because I'm expecting more people to be with us. But because we're here already, so I'm just gonna talk with you a little bit about why we're doing this and what is this event about. And of course, thanking you all for being with us today. So today we have a very special artist, one of my best friends, and I believe in him as a person, as an artist, Garfield. And I think the idea came first when I was talking with Abdullah about how it's important to continue making art and how it's important to get connected and how it's important for the artist to have an audience as well, because this is part of the process. And from here, we started doing this visit to the studio artist. And this is our second visit, Yafa Arts and Crafts and Marsoum. And we are honored to have you all here and we welcome you. And I would love to ask Abdullah to talk with us more about Marsoum idea and how he started having the online art exhibitions 2 years ago already. Abdullah?
Awesome. Thank you, Yafa. Hey, everyone. Excuse me. It's a pleasure to see you all. My name is Abdullah. I founded an online art gallery about 2.5 years ago called Marsoum Art Collective. Marsoum is Arabic for painted, drawn, written in the stars, basically. You can get really romantic about it. Our mission is to paint a different story of the Middle East and North Africa through art. So we're all about breaking barriers and really taking things, in a digital first. I come from a gallery background. My mom has owned and operated a gallery for close to 30 years. So I grew up basically in an art gallery. So to me, it was very important to take that to the next iteration and bring it into a digital sphere. We are a social enterprise, so our cultural mission is very much rooted in giving back. 5% of our proceeds go to visualizing Palestine and helping them find new ways of, raising awareness to human rights issues in a data-driven and a visual manner. We're all about empowering artists. We're about 20 artists strong now, and yeah, we've been experimenting with all sorts of things digital, in addition to having an online sales platform and all that good stuff. We've done about 4 online exhibitions so far. One of them is still ongoing if you'd like to check it out. Marsoum.co, marsoum.co. I'll post a link in the chat. And yeah, really honored to be part of this initiative as well. This is the latest one, the studio visits, and really, really pumped to see what Garfield has in store for us.
So thank you, Abdullah, for sharing with us all about Marsoum. And for today, our artists that we're honored to be with all here to see and talk with you. And this is what I wanted to highlight a little bit more, that it's actually a very special visit that we in his real studio and with his real work. So it's not a video that we can just watch or a slideshow and that's it. This is a chance that we can talk more about the ideas and connect with the artist and see his real work in his place that he sits and create. So Garfield, I would love please to ask you to introduce yourself and take us in a visit in your place. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yafa. Um, okay. Abdullah, Yafa, thank you very much. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to start with this piece of work. Well, I thank you very much. This is a tremendous opportunity, especially at a time like this. It goes beyond anything that words can really describe. I really am honored to be here. I thank you all for having joined, and well, let's talk some art. So this is a piece I did in 2009 called Consumer Bird. I have an environmental consciousness, for want of a better expression, and I basically did this piece to satisfy a call that was made by the Beijing Biennale. They actually accepted it and flew it to China. And well, can I say, I went about just grabbing arbitrary things that I found to create this art, toothbrush, things that we discard and don't think about where it might end up. So essentially, I wanted to, bring this image to people's consciousness to make them realize, how we can be destroying the environment and what measures we actually can take to not do that. This is all work I did when I was in Jamaica. I became familiar with the Adinkra symbols and the history therein. These symbols come from West Africa, Ghana specifically. And I was fascinated by them because they were very prominent in Jamaica. You'd see them all around. I didn't know what they were about. A friend actually sensitized me to them, and I thought I'd kind of use them in my art. It actually became the foundation of some work I did while I studied in the United States. I've been working a lot with circles. These circles I got from confetti. Bought some confetti and just arbitrarily use them in this artwork. I like to use everyday items, non-traditional items that people don't necessarily think can be art, because I'm not a traditional painter. I don't necessarily do the realism thing like some people. Not to say that there's anything wrong with realism, but I like to use unconventional things in my art. So here I go using confetti. I do a little charcoal work. This is charcoal done on the paper that the architects use for their contour drawing, but things that don't necessarily, seem to be art or seem to be able to be fashioned into art. Because for me, it's a challenge. One of the things I've realized about myself is that the white canvas is actually quite intimidating. And I gather this is the case for a lot of artists. So I like to stick things down. Usually before I even start on the canvas, I stick things down. In this particular case, I found 2 doors outside of my apartment. And this is actually the first piece of work I did when I got to Canada. I found 2 doors, I tore up some paper, stuck it down, and this was the result. There's a sense of, I guess, alchemy that comes out, just basically using trash. Now, in Jamaica, I've used a lot of trash because the way the Jamaican society is structured hierarchically, people at the bottom are not usually always treated well. So when I was in Jamaica, one of the things that drove me was an aesthetic where you use trash to become something more than what it is, something greater than what it is thought to be. So here I go with the trash. These doors were discarded. I made art out of them. This is another piece I did actually quite recently. It actually looks better now that it's out in the snow. But it's an opportunity to see how the work weathers. So I guess this is me wanting to connect with nature all over again. These pictures that you're looking at, this work was done last year. To the very left is the work I actually did. I sent out a call to various people, friends and all that, to give me items of clothing that they no longer needed. The response to that was great. So I disassembled the clothes and rearranged it. And then I invited people to come to my studio and become a part of the art. So people actually came and stitched, and a lot of fun was had. But beyond that, the purpose behind this exhibition was to demonstrate how fast fashion is damaging the environment. And interestingly, even though people came and had fun stitching, there were several conversations about how, people are buying a lot of things, clothes specifically that they don't necessarily need, and how we can actually curb this. So it was a lot of fun, but there's a level of seriousness involved as well. Someone actually gave me this, Charlotte Wint, a very good friend of mine. All the fabric here she donated, and I basically just incorporated a figure on top of it. This is actually a very recent work that I did. And this again is me just sticking paper down. This work is actually not finished. I mean, you're in my studio, so you get an opportunity to see work that's actually in progress. I don't actually know how this will end. but this is where it's at now. But just to give you an example of you know, sticking stuff over the base of the canvas. This is something actually done very recently, and you can see it in the corner there. Newspaper again, torn up, but what I did, I got prints of African cloth, stuck it on the background, and then I kind of just stuck paper on top of it. I mean, when I started this piece of work, I had no idea where it was going. I knew I had a figurative element that I wanted to come out, but in terms of the treatment and technique, I basically didn't know specifically what I would do. I almost allowed, for want of a better expression, the work to speak to me, to basically tell me what direction it wanted to go, and this is where it ended up. This is another piece I did recently. Started out with the torn paper on the base, and having said that, you can actually see a piece here, which I have on slide, where you can see the torn paper and me working through to create the image. Actually, this is the work. By no means finished, but just the idea that because the canvas is so intimidating to me, I tear things up, and then I give myself a challenge of, you know, bringing back the image, adding more stuff. If you look very closely, you can see some little dots within that region, the nose and maybe the lower lip. But the dots are a recurring theme in my work. And I'll tell you soon why that is. This is very, very recently done. I call it black magic. I mean, I'm using a lot of crafty items. I go to the dollar store, I purchase stuff, I throw it in the artwork. I mean, this is after tearing up paper and all of that. I mean, the camera doesn't show it well, but if you look beneath, for example, the red, you'll see headlines from newspaper, advertising, etc., etc. Okay, so this is one of the very, very recent things I've done. These dots, I actually created myself. I mean, these are discarded items, but I created these dots. I'm going to keep it a little secret as to how I went about doing it, but I read a German filmmaker whose name is Hita Sterl. She wrote about the Bosnian War, which happened in 1993. And during that war, there were 20 men that were taken off of a train. They were all actually killed. Among the 20 men, there was one black man. The biggest irony about the situation is that the 19 other people that were killed, their relatives and friends and all that came to claim them, to say that they were on the train, da 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 da. But this man, no trace of him, nobody came forward, no relatives. And I found it strange. This one man, black man in Bosnia, has been killed, nobody comes forward. I just found that amazing. I did a little research, and one of the biggest ironies is that some reports of that incident don't even count the black man as having been there. They say that there were 19 people, because for some strange reason, he has just disappeared. Now, Hita Sterl wrote an article saying that it is possible that because there was so much digital influence and use of digital equipment during the period, it might be that this man disappeared between the pixels. He fell between the pixels, which I thought was a very strange idea. Anyway, just in keeping with that line of thought, I thought I'd create pixels to find this man. So here it is in my art, where I've created this narrative following on Hita Sterl's direction. I've now created these pixels, and I'm trying to find this person that has disappeared. Anyway, I've been using pixels before that, and this is now the narrative that I've created. And to some extent, it might just be that I'm trying to find myself in all of this as well. So I'm gonna, I'd like to invite people to ask questions if they have any, make comments if they want to. Yafa, you want to take it?
I want to thank you, of course, for sharing your amazing art and having us in your studio. It's an honor and a pleasure, and I love your work. And I love the idea behind the work itself. And I would love to start with asking a question. Of course, we're open to speak with Garfield, and please feel free to share your ideas and feelings after seeing the artwork. And I think this is the most important thing, that we're here together at the now, having these emotions together after seeing Garfield work. So whatever idea you have, even if it's not a question, just to share your feelings, it's important. So I would love to ask Garfield a question, actually, because I have a lot of feelings, but yes, I want to ask you, how do you think about this collage and collecting materials and different things together. And now, after being in Canada for almost 3 years now, how do you feel this is happening inside you and reflecting in your work? Are you getting these pieces from, you know, your roots traveling? And I know you have been in USA for a while as well, and here in Canada, if this all comes together to be in your work.
Well, thanks for the question, Yafa. Okay, so yeah, I studied in the United States, and I'm now living in Canada, and I'm from Jamaica. Okay, so based on my humble upbringing, I was taught to value things and to not be wasteful. Also in Jamaica, there's the Rastafari aesthetic, which is about reverence for the land, simple living, really. And I think a lot of Jamaica is populated with those ideas without them even consciously realizing it. So I think just from that sense of being surrounded by all those ideas, it became part of me. So even while living in a place like the United States, I live simply. And even now living in Canada, I live simply, but also there's a lot of, compared to a place like Jamaica, I mean, there's a lot of waste. I mean, it's a bigger country, more so-called developed. And it's just amazing the things that people throw away. It makes for great art. I mean, if you were to see the other side of my studio, which I won't show you, you'd be surprised. But I think having come to Canada as an adult is a different experience from if I were to have come here as a child, because I basically was formed already my personality. It is a different space, and there are a lot of positives, the level of inclusiveness. I mean, I'm a part of an organization, Articule, an artist-run institution. And by the way, we have our annual general meeting tonight. So just to tell you that. But yeah, it really is open, it's inclusive, and Canadians are just so kind. They say sorry for everything, which is good. I'm not complaining. But, you know, coming from a place like Jamaica, not to say that kindness doesn't exist there, but boy, the Canadians have taken it to another level. I don't know if I've even answered your question, but having been in these different places, it has affected me. I can't tell you that it is this or that, but of course, you know, wherever we go, not only it is that we take ourselves, I almost said baggage, but we are influenced in ways. I mean, the way I live here is not the way I lived in America. And whereas I can't point specifically to what the differences are, I'm happy at having been privileged enough to have lived in these separate spaces.
Thank you for sharing, and I want to tell you that Frank wants to speak with you, and please feel free to speak immediately. And I'm just trying to open the doors and open the discussions, but please feel free to speak immediately with Garfield and share your thoughts and feelings and questions with him. Frank, please.
Thank you. There are many very stimulating works. Obviously, Consumer Bird. There is, however, one that I want to ask you about. Okay. So two above the double door, you have the three figures. No, it's further up still, I think. Further it was something, you said it was a Ghanaian symbol. Yes.
The Adinka symbol.
I'm sorry. Well, as you know, I'm also Jamaican, but I left as a child.
Okay.
So I would like to understand better the symbolism in this work.
Okay. So in the Adinka aesthetic, each symbol has a meaning. The history of the Adinka civilization is that, okay, so each symbol has a meaning. And for example, if someone were a banker and would die, and this is when it in its original state, this is not now how it is now. So if someone were a banker and were to have died, all the symbols having to do with honesty, fortitude, strength, order would be put on a garment. And that garment would be worn by whomever, friend, family. They'd wear that garment to honor this person who is being ushered into the afterlife, for want of a better expression. So when that happens, the garment is created, they wear this garment to the funeral, And that's the only time the garment would be worn, because Adinkra actually means farewell. And it's all about saying goodbye to the dearly departed. So it's a way of honoring.
It's only for the funeral then.
It would only be worn for the funeral, but that was when in its original state. I don't know if it exists in that way now. I mean, you see the symbols all over and it's become fashion, but when it was in its original state and in terms of how it was originally conceived, that is what used to happen. So they'd wear this garment to honor whomever had passed, and all the symbols would be, you know, commemorating this person's life. And as I've given the example of the banker, because I guess to have been working in a bank, you would have been honest, trustworthy, and all those symbols related to that would have been emblazoned on the garment. And by the way, the process back then was a hand-done, each individual symbol stamped all over the garment.
Wow, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Garfield.
Oh, Garfield, oh, thank you. Welcome.
Hey, man. Good to see you. You know, I'm a long time fan of your artwork, and the way that it speaks, it usually has a social commentary onto it, either intended or unintended. There's a piece here that caught my eye, the one that it's the profile of a man. You said it was done out of newspaper.
They were all probably done out of newspaper.
Yeah.
Is that the one? Is that
yes,
one?
Yes, that one.
Profile.
Yeah. Was there any thought? The one that jumped out to me was the prominence of the ear, and it was made out of newspaper media. Was there any? What was the thought behind this one?
Okay, so I found this image on social media, and the minute I saw it, well, when I said the image, it was a photograph. The model's name is, don't quote me on this. I think his name is Boussa, B-O-U-S-S-A. But apparently he's a model, famous model. And I saw this picture of him. The minute I saw it, I said, I'm going to do an artwork for this. Interestingly, there's a South African artist that used this image in his art. And it was obvious that he had used the image. And because of that, I was a little turned off. But then the image kept recurring in my head. And I said, I have to use this image. I mean, I've used it completely different from the way he used it. But I like the way you mentioned the air, because I've actually never done anything like this. Usually I work in paper and I work in different ways. But in this particular work, I actually painted the figure and then stuck the paper on top of it, which is almost a kind of anti-art, because I've never really done anything like that. Usually when I paint an image, I might tweak it here or there, but I never really cover it worse with paper. But for some reason, that was what I thought it needed. And I thought leaving the air out would give it a more sense of three-dimensionality and form.
Yeah.
Thanks for the question.
I love it. I'm adding it to one of the ones that I'm going to be hunting down.
Okay, okay, that's fine. Thank you very much.
We have Sharon, right? I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name right. Sharon, please.
No, you said it perfectly. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation to be here. It's a pleasure to see the work and to see these beautiful people. I'm with the Jamaica Association. I'm really happy that I'm able to be here. And what I wanted to ask is, and I do apologize if I missed this, Garfield, I want to ask you. I see there's a similarity in the work. You like faces, you like portraits, right? And I would like to understand what draws you to that, because all the images that I'm seeing now and at others, that's what you have. You have form, and then you have portrait. So what draws you to that?
Thanks for that question. That's a very interesting question. Okay, so while growing up, I remember one of the things I did as a child is whenever the newspaper would come home, I'd go to the comic section and I'd redraw, especially Mandrake. I remember as a child, every time Mandrake appeared, I'd redraw it in my little notebook. So I basically had the whole series in my book. While growing up in art school, in high school, there was this thing about being able to draw, and it was all about realism. And the people who would get the props are the people who not only could draw, but could draw and have it resemble whomever they drew. So there was always that challenge, that thirst to make it look like who it is supposed to look like or what it is. So I guess coming out of that, I can't shake that aesthetic, if you want to call it that. So I'm riveted to a certain realism of wanting it to look like. I guess in a place like Jamaica, I found, especially after having returned from studying overseas, I found that realism was what people were buying, and the artist has to eat. So I continued this business of realism and form. And most of what people want is either themselves or something that they can relate to. This is during the time when I returned to Jamaica. So I continued that sense of, you know, doing the things that people probably will be able to identify with. But also, I did a little English literature, and you know, as much as some of these images don't have the eyes looking directly at you, I remember somewhere in Shakespeare it said, you know, the eyes are the mirror of the soul. So I think somehow I'm trying to go deeper than just surface. And I guess that is where I'm fascinated with faces, because I think there was a kind of movement years ago where there was a way of looking at faces and telling people's personality. It was all a myth, but I think somewhere deep down in my consciousness, I'm thinking that this is possible.
I have a questions for you, Garfield. It's Dominique Fontaine here in
Hi,
Montreal.
Dominique, how are you?
Hi, how are you? Thank
I'm
you
good.
for your great presentation. It's
Thank
such a pleasure to see your work and your generosity, etc. And I'd like to ask you how your presence in Montreal and in Canada, does this affect your creativity, or how do you situate your work now? It's been almost 4 years, 3 years now.
Going 3 years, going 2.5, 3
in
years.
Canada. How do you locate your activity as an artist now in the setting of Montreal, which is the city where you're living? And can you speak about that? And is there any new influence on your work as an artist?
Thank you very much for the question, Dominique. That's a very, very interesting question. I think for the first couple of years that I was here, I put myself under unnecessary pressure. As a matter of fact, before I left Jamaica to come here, on the day that I traveled to Canada, I was in my studio working because I told myself that I wanted to build up a momentum, and when I get to Canada, let's continue on that. I wasn't able to get working as quickly as I thought I wanted to, and it kind of depressed me somewhat, and that made me more anxious. I remember talking to a friend, Kate, and she said, Garfield, you need to land. And then she went on to explain that, listen, it takes a couple of years, just relax and allow the thing to come to you. COVID happened last year, and coming out of COVID, well, I'm saying coming out, I'm being optimistic. A year later, I'm doing much better than I've done in the 2.5 years that I've been here. I'm now building up a momentum. I'm happy to be in the studio. I'm more at peace, so to speak. In terms of the work, in my head, the ideas are the same in terms of what I want to put in the work. I'm looking at a lot of artists. I'm able now to go to galleries. I interface with artists. I'm part of an artist organization. And that's tremendous. Just that sense of being in the company of other professionals. Not to say that this didn't happen in Jamaica, but here it is way more diverse. And I mean, being in a place like Articule, up to yesterday, we had a critique on work that I'm doing now. And the feedback from all these artists was so great. So basically, I'm happy in the place that I am. I'm really optimistic about what the future holds. I expect great things of myself. And this is not even putting pressure on myself. It's just realizing that as long as I relax and just be in the studio and work, great things will happen. I realize it's now 1:30. Yafa, you want to say something about that?
Actually, I don't want you to go, and I would love to keep listening to you. You're inspiring, and you're so honest on sharing your journey and how this happens and how you build this amazing work. And I'm really grateful that you're open to share with us with this much of honestly. And I don't want to let you go. So I know we said we'll finish at 1:30. We can add 5 minutes more if there is more questions, more sharing feelings. We have of course lots of friends, and we have Lavi herself. she's an artist, and if she wants to share anything, or I'm not sure if anyone have more. And we have Shelly, of course, and Shelly, she's I think your biggest fan. That
Indeed.
she always supported you, and I can see her somewhere in your work, and I know she was there while this amazing
Yafa,
art is happening.
Yafa, thank you for that cue.
I do have a
I
question.
must say this. I must say this. If I'm to ever give any advice to someone who either aspires to be an artist or who is an artist, it is this: be careful who you marry. Be very careful who you marry. I can sit here and testimony to the fact that this woman that I married, I mean, I owe it all to her for what she puts up with. it's I mean, I could not live with me, as ironic as that sounds.
Oh it's super really nice from you, and amazing how you connect your life and with the journey that's happening with your art. And that's why I think your art is very, you know, I don't know if you can feel it, but it's so close to my heart because it's so honest. It's all about your journey and what you did and what happened, and opening and being able to have the awareness, talking about it and sharing the idea behind the work itself. It's fascinating. So I would love to ask you one more question, and then we let you go.
Okay.
Okay. So
there was somebody who had a question, Yafa.
it
Sorry.
was of course it was Sharon. I thought you forgot your hand. This is another question. I'm sorry, because sometimes you forgot the icon. I'm sorry. Of course, here you go.
Thank you so much. You know what my initial question was about, the portraits, and you talked about your inspirations in terms of where you're seeing where this portraits come from. So I'm really interested in your inspirations now, because I see you have that bust that's in the snow, right? And it's a form, but it's a face. But I'd like to know a little bit more about, do you see your inspirations changing, being in this colder climate, being in these surroundings?
The inspiration probably doesn't change. Maybe what changes is the medium. For example, not to say we don't have newspaper in Jamaica, but there's a gentleman that comes and he just drops things at the door and it's all free. So there's just a plethora of stuff to draw from. I mean, if I go downstairs and walk past the garbage now, I see a lot of cardboard. I see a lot of very unusual things, which are unusual to me. The Dollarama, one of my favorite places to go, is just up the road. That image that I have, Black Magic, that young lady, on that I have a lot of sequin and stuff, which, I mean, these things are crafty, and if I were still studying, my professors would just wonder what the hell is wrong with me, because some of these things that I've used are things that we've been advised against because it looks kind of too crafty. But I mean, I'm not here trying to, conform to anybody's likes or dislikes. I'm really doing me. And this is not to say I'm not conscious of the fact that there's an audience and people need to, kind of relate and be able to appreciate. I'm having fun, really. And I've forgotten the question that you asked me. I guess I'm having too much fun.
You answered it because you said something about the inspiration never changed. It's really now finding the different mediums within with which to work with. That's definitely creating other aspects of your work, other sides of, and other explanation. The creativity is coming out in different ways based on the materials that you're now exposed to or have in your circle, that you said that it may be new to you.
Interestingly, I had someone visit my studio maybe over a year ago, and she was able to point to a string of similarities in my three-dimensional work, my two-dimensional work, which I hadn't consciously noticed. And it was along the lines of color and texture and all of that, which it kind of blew my mind. So I guess I can't really hide from myself as much as I'm trying to find myself between pixels.
And that is where I will jump in with my one line and agree with you, Garfield, that your work is really a process of self-discovery. And I think I'm the closest person to your work, that you continue to explore that, and anywhere in the world we find ourselves, that the surrounding will provide and has continue to provide instruments and inspiration as you explore yourself as a Black man, as the history that you've lived, and continue to move into your own future. So I think really your art, from my perspective, your art is you, and is that constant, consistent, and diligent exploration of who you are, that and utilizing the mediums around us that continue to have you and the work evolve.
Well, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
You know that she's black. So.
I do have a question for you, Garfield.
Oh, hi, Lavi. How are you?
Fine. I'm a fan of your work. I always find it inspiring, bold, and powerful.
Thank you.
Disregarding the mediums. I was fascinated about the story behind the Bosnian man, and just because it's a bit similar to what I do, like it's just like you're just saying, you know, putting out there, making it visible, the invisible. I just find it mind-blowing.
Thank you very much. There's a lot of rigor in this process. In fact, the background alone took me almost a week of consistent work. And whereas I don't want to get into the specifics because I haven't really done enough of it to make it go public. Just yesterday in the critique, this is the work that we spoke about at Articule. And someone asked me a question that made me realize something about my approach to life. I remember while growing up, one of the things my father used to say, my dearly departed father, is if you don't work, you shouldn't eat. And for him, working had to do with the hands. And in a curious kind of way, this affected me instinctively, where to my young self, you know, I need to be using my hands. So to spend a week on this background is nothing, because even in that process, there's a moment where I'm not even thinking. It becomes automatic. And I guess for much of life, if we can tap into that space, then we do ourselves some good. Well, I can speak only for myself. But yeah, what can I say? I'm just having a lot of fun here. Thank you for the question.
I'm trying to make the timing for the visit not really long, because I know that you want to sit and create and do more.
No, please.
And my intention,
I'm here for as long as you want
the intention is to build more visits for you, and the intention is to make more connection between this pandemic, you know, while we're having this pandemic, so we can actually connect with art more and how it's important for our soul, even if we're not gonna learn, but to see, to taste art. So I want you to know that I'm really will process what happened today, and I would love to build with you more projects, maybe more for classes, recycling, workshops. I'm not sure yet what we can do together, but I know that I'm full of energy and intentions to build more with you. And the question was, are you ready to go online more if we will continue in this? But like we can't really see each other or be in the same place together for a little bit longer. So as an artist, are you willing to go online for exhibitions, for workshops? Are you open to this idea for now?
Oh yes. Listen, I'm here for the party. I mean, if I seem to be having too much fun, it is because I am. I'm happy with what I do. I'm happy to share it. I want to teach it. Except those little circles, I don't want to tell you about that too much yet. But yeah, just bring it on, and I'll do more work. I promise.
I believe in you. I totally believe in you. So for more to come then, and more connection to build. And as I was saying, the art is really important. The same like food, like every element for life. The parts of maybe for a lot of people and most of the people is very important to taste art. And these days we will be able to taste it more, because we know that we can save our souls through tasting and creating art. This is a time that we should get more of creation, and we hold on together till we go through this. I would love to thank you all. Thank you, Garfield, so much.
Thank you, Yafa.
Thank you, thank you. And for more to events to come, and I would love to keep telling you that please, every month we're going to have one artist to visit, inspire each other, and be there for each other. Come again and see the other people work. I know it's online, but at least it's something, you know, instead of being alone, it's good to connect. So I'm inviting you to come again, all of you. Give me this honor and join anytime. So thank you and merci beaucoup and lots of love comments. Thank you so much for being here today. And I will keep inviting you. Anytime you're welcome to join, welcome to be here. And if you have more artists that they would love to be part of what's happening, I'm more than happy and honored. And of course, Abdullah, you have been so quiet today, but Marsoum is supporting and telling and posting around. I think this is a way of connecting and saving our souls, like surviving, kind of doing art and tasting art. So I would love to thank you again, everyone, and thank you, Garfield. I love you all.
Thank you all for coming.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Thanks everyone. Thank you, Garfield. That was very inspiring, and we'll talk soon. All right.
Okay, great.
Cheers.
Thank you so much.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys. And
Bye.
thanks for joining.